and in Lake, where am I? I'm in Lake Zurich. I'm in Lake Zurich where I teach actually on Wednesdays, and I teach watercolor. And let me show you where I teach. I teach right over there. And so this is the scene we're doing. This is Lake Zurich. It's the Mainstreet Gallery. See right over here. There's a Mainstreet Gallery right on Main Street in Lake Zurich. And this is their gallery. That's their classes and the classrooms right there. And this is the scene. I've been sketching now here for a little bit. And so basically the sun is going in and out. And so sometimes the sun is out, sometimes it's in. And it's kind of a busy street. So you're probably going to hear a little bit of commotion going on once in a while with the cars going by. But there's no shadows on there right now. And actually, if you look at my picture, I had sketched in some of the shadowings, like right there. See some of the shadowing. I take pencil and I go in there and I just sketch that in there, knowing where the shadows are when the sun's out. So let me just put this in here. In my little folder, and let me just put this together. And so here's what we're going to be painting. And again, here you can see it's pretty much that, but right over here there was shadows coming off of this. I left that box out right there. I didn't put that in. I'm taking that out. And there will be shadows here from what I remember when the sun comes out. And you'll see once in a while the sun will come out. Though, yeah, it's just going to be sporadic when it comes to the lights and darks. Lights coming out. Let me just put this up a little bit so I don't cover the microphone. Hopefully you can hear me. And let me just get ready to go. All right, so again, with when we're outdoors painting, I'm not painting any different than when I'm painting indoors. Basically, I start with my lights, and my lights would be my sky, basically my sky. And my value pattern through here will be this area is dark, and then the shadows are coming to this corner. All the shadows are kind of hitting there, and then the trees and this pole and the flowers and the banner right here. Those are all dark. That's all dark. So it's like a U-shaped dark, and this is going to be dark against light. And this is my center of interest, right? Right, the entrance of the Mainstreet Art Center, and that's what it's called, Mainstreet Art Center. And I'm next to the gallery. They're not open on Sundays, but during the week, every day of the week, they're open except Sundays. And so let's get started. And so I'm going to start out with the sky. As you can tell, right here, right on the top here, the sky is pretty cloudy, and but this morning it was basically white and light, really bright because it's shining right in my eyes. And actually, I'm right behind this tree, and so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing the lights in there first. So we're just going to go in here and just kind of go with the lights. Going to put in the light sky, and basically very, very light. And actually, if you see right here, I have my gouache and I have my watercolors, and my gouache watercolor is the same as my watercolor, except that it's opaque, right? And so I like to use them both together. I don't when I'm using it wet, it's still watercolor. So it's basically white, wet in the wet, right? And so wet in the wet makes it look transparent. Even gouache will be transparent when you do it wet in the wet. And so I'm just putting in my light greens. My light blues. I'm just putting those in, and see how it's running. It's running down, and I'm looking at the sky, and right above it here in this picture, it's about the same color, right? And so I'm going to be doing a little bit of that. And as it goes down, it gets lighter and lighter. Back into the edge back here, it's really light. And then I'm going to put it right into the windows also, right into the windows, because it's glass reflecting, and right here, especially the main window here, is reflecting. I have so many colors out. This is almost way too many colors, but I'm having both my palettes out, and I have lots of colors in them. And so a lot of times I'm using a little bit of white and blue together to get the light blue that I want. I know you're supposed to use the paper, and I do, but sometimes I like to make it thicker so that it doesn't run, right? And so I use white paint so it doesn't run too far. And so then we're just going to keep on going. Put a little bit more blue in here. And remember, even gouache, when you're using gouache, even gouache will get lighter. It will get lighter when it dries if it's used wet in the wet. If you're using it wet in the wet, it will still get light. It will lighten 20% because it's still watercolor. It's finely ground, and so it will be. Oh, now the sun's out. Now it's. Oh, this is going to be in shadow right here, and so we're going to have it. We're lighting up the front of the building, and so that's really kind of neat that it's happening. And so with this light blue, I can go over all my darks too. I can go over my darks so that it shows through, shines through. I'm using some kind of aqua. I think this is aqua blue, and this is my horizon blue. I'm just putting it in there. I'm working on a panel today again. Panel. So there's my light, and now the background back here. I know it's darker when you look at it live, but I'm going to tone it down a little bit, and so I'm going to make those greens not quite as dark, and I'm going to mix my greens with quinacridone gold, which is right here, and I use a blue with quinacridone gold, and I put a little orange in there, and I'm going to do the background leaves back here. These are light. I'm just going to go right through everything. And there's stippled holes of light coming through there, which I can put in now or later. What I can do later on is go in and then put in thick light blue, and that'll show like it's stippled through there. But right now I'm going through the dark of the trees, and this flowering bed here, or this flowering pot that's hanging from the lamppost, I can put that in later too. And so I can go over it because it's actually going to be brighter purple, so I don't want to go over that. There's a sign back here. Here's a banner. So I'm just getting a little bit of the lights through here. There's a paper towel in my hand. So a paper towel in my hand, and so I can wipe off my brush. Again, I'm making this a lot lighter than it actually is, because I want that to sit in the back, and it's not that important back there. I want the contrast to come forward into my center of interest right here. And this is actually right behind these people is really dark, and I can put the darks in later. Right now I'm doing my lights, right? I'm doing my lights. Work with your lights first, get them all done, get them all figured out. Go right through your darks. Now these pine trees right here, I'm just going to put them in real quickly, like with a back and forth brush stroke here. Here a little back and forth. There's a building right here that's going to be in shadow. There's also a building back there, which is actually lighter than the trees back here, so. Again, I don't want to give too much detail to that back there. I just want it enough to see what it is. It's trees or a building. I don't need to put detail or contrast there because that's not where it's supposed to be. It's going to be in this tree and these leaves up here. And now the front of the building is sort of a beige color, white, off-white, like an off-white. And it's going to reflect other colors that I have in there. And the coffee cup up back here, this is a little restaurant that people are dining at right at the moment. And so that also is a gray, a light gray. But because it's back here, I'm going to use a little bit of the green. And I'm using a gray, an already gray. It's called gray on gray. It's a color that's already gray, and so I don't have to mix anything. I'm going to go right through here. Again, I'm still working my lights, Let's put this building back here real quickly. And in the windshield of the cars, what I do is I always put you put the light of the sky, you put the blue of the sky in there. Because it reflects, it's a mirror, and you reflect the sky. If you have a question, I will look at my camera once in a while and see. Hey Rita, Ellie, and Sue. Thanks for stopping by here. If I forget to look at the thing, hopefully I'll look at it once in a while. Sometimes I forget. So if I do go past it and I didn't ask it again a couple of times, it's fine. I don't mind you asking questions. Definitely don't mind you asking questions. This is blue. This little awning back there for the restaurant is an awning. Gonna make it a light blue right now. And so all the places I'm still making light blue, I'm just trying to figure out. It's very hard. The thing that's hard about it is when it keeps on changing the values. Like when the sun comes out, it's totally different from when the sun is behind the clouds, because you get a different value pattern then, because it's just there's no more sun basically, and so you don't get any shadows, and you're using local color then. So you really have to remember what it is that it was, like your values. And when I'm drawing it, I'm going for a certain thing. So when I'm drawing the scene up, I've already made up my mind what is going to be my value pattern. That's the first thing I kind of think about, is my value pattern, which is very important. I mean, it's so important to do your value pattern, as you know, and if you're in my class or ever been to my workshops, I'm totally about the value pattern. It's all about keeping that value pattern, and outside when it's changing like this much, then you have to really, really watch it. Really work it and really try to figure it out and get it done before you keep on moving on. So I'm getting like a off-white here to do the front of the building. The sign is pretty much white, so I keep that little white. I'm just taking a dirty brush, actually, right now. I'm just taking the dirty brush, and my palette is here kind of dirty. I'm just going to go there and just put this over this light area, because that'll give me the color I need. It's just a dirty off-white. A little bit of yellow in there, a little bit of green, because it's reflecting from the other parts of the scene. The sidewalk itself also is the same thing. I like to use a little bit of this pink in this jaune number. Last week I told you about that, because same kind of like what we did last week in a way, in front of a gallery, a street scene. But when I'm outdoors doing plein air, I like towns like this, and I like the little towns and working people into your scene. Like I got people walking into the studio even though there's nobody walking in there. I just put them in there. I made them up. Here I'm using jaune number 2 with lavender. That just gives you like a little bit of an off-white. And again, I'm just still putting in my lights. And if I were to go thick with this and do it just like a gouache, like an oil, I would still do the same thing. I would still put it in like this, because I'm just get darker as you go along, right? You just get a little bit darker. I like to put a little bit of warmth in the eaves of things. That's like the overhang right there. There's an overhang up here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of light in there. I like to put orange in those areas. A little bit of orange in those areas. This all area is dark here, and so that's going to be a nice dark. And so I'm still establishing my lights. I'm still getting in there and just getting all the lights on, so I don't have to go back in there later. I just want to get those all done. It's a good thing to get those all done. That way you don't have to worry about it later on. Morning, Marcia. Morning, Sue. There's a little bit of greenery in here. So lights come in first. And even though these are purple flowers, or like pinkish purple flowers, I'm still going to put this green underneath, light, and then what I'll do is I'll put it on thick, and what I'll do is I'll do a thick on top of that. Hey. Nice work. Thank you. So keep on going with your lights. Work your lights first when you're doing your work. The darks, when you get to the second step, you get to your darks, and then with your darks, you make middle tones and darks. Those you'll do when it's kind of dry, and these banners are going to be darker, so again, go through them. Just get your light leaves first. Birds are yelling at me. I wonder if there's a nest up there. I don't know if you can hear them. So these are the foreground leaves. And little potted plants, I put the yellow and the purples, and I mean not the yellows and the greens. I do have leaf green on my palette now. I'm gonna start putting that in my students' palettes too. Leaf green. It's a nice light green that you don't have to mix. It's basically the only one I have in there. All right, I think we're ready for our mediums. So those are pretty much all my lights that I can think of. So let's do our dark here now and establish our big mediums and darks. This is a medium, this is a big medium, and so I'm gonna take my bigger brush again, and I'm gonna go right through this roof, because this roof is actually darker. And you can just show you real quickly. So that, if you look, this area right here is all medium, right? And the front of the building is gonna be light. And then the rooftop of that will be dark. All right, so how are we gonna do this? We're just gonna, oh, look at I had green in my brush. That's okay. I just, I don't really care a lot of times when I first put on a color. I'm just wetting it, and if I had purple on my brush, that's fine. I'm gonna make it a gray. It's kind of like a, I'm gonna put a little bit of warmth in it too. Put a little orange in that. I use this as like my palette. I don't go in thinking that I have to have a certain color in my brush. I use my paper as my palette, and so I go in there and I wet it, and then I apply the paint into that area. And if I think it's too warm, I add a cool. If it's too cool, I add a warm. And you can just float it right in there. You know, you can just float it right in there. Don't worry about it mixing, because it's mixing itself. It's wet now, and I can just go in there and it'll wet itself really nicely. And while I have some of this darks in there, I can just go right into this area here too, because there is some darks right next to it. This goes right through there. I'm not doing pieces. Again, I never paint pieces. I paint areas, big areas. This pole is going to be a little bit light on one side, but I'm just going to do the darks behind it, and this underneath there's probably going to be a little bit darker. And I'm using both if you notice, I've been using both my gouache and my watercolors together. There's really no difference when you're working it wet into wet. It's when you start doing it dry and working it, then you're going to get a little bit more of the pigment to be opaque. Right now it's just more granulated then, because there is more granules in the opaque watercolor, which is gouache. I like to call it opaque watercolor, because people think that it's something different when you're using it and you say gouache. They think it's totally not watercolor, and it is watercolor. It's transparent watercolor and opaque watercolor, but it's how you use it. And now look at this, is really a really nice color there. We'll do a little bit more purple in this area. I like to do underneath the eaves, make that a little bit of orange. So I'll put a little orange in there. I'm using the watercolor now. I'm going to put a little bit of watercolor in there. Oops, went too far. And then I'm going to make dappled. This is going to be dappled lighting here, and I like to use purple first. Add a little bit of lavender to that. Now this dappled light will have to go over my light, and so I'm going to do this a little bit more tightly, because I've got to get the shadowing in here. The sun's coming out for a second, and that's going to ruin everything, because on my palette, if one side is light and one side is dark, that's not good either. So underneath this chair here, it's like a little dappled light, go right over this bench. I'm doing the shadow now. I'm kind of directing the shadow, the dappled shadow. Like I said, remember, the shadow's going to be coming off the tree and off this bench, off this pole, and I kind of want it dappled because it's going through the tree here. Underneath the car, the side of the car is in shadow. And if I feel, again, I can work the shadow while it's wet. If I feel it's too warm, then put a cool in there. If it's too cool, put a warm in there. It's wet, and so you can do all these different values and different tones of color. You don't have to stick with just the one wash that you put down. If it's wet, you can go back in and make it dappled. And there can be a shadow within a shadow too. So what I like to do is I like to put this in there like first, and then I go back in and go right here where the shadow is being cast from. Make that part a little bit darker. I'll take a little bit maybe purple. And I'll just take a little bit darker right there behind this little thing here. Take a little bit more purple again. I think that's black right there. This is purple. And I'll put it a little bit darker right where it's being cast. Right where the shadow starts, you're going to make that a little bit darker. Make that just slightly darker and let it drip down. That's fine. This actually, the vent should be a little bit different, but this is all dappled, right? It's all dappled light. I'm going to go right to the tree. This is a car back here. Now it's gone. These two cars are still here. And my van is right here. And so it's right next to me, so I always put my van in. So that's dark. So see, I'm getting my value pattern. This is my mediums. These are my mediums. Again, if you want to ask questions, go ahead. I will look down once in a while. Here, there's a shadow coming off of here too. You notice I do the side of the car and this all shadow all together as one. Leave the windows, my windows are a little bit tinted in the back, but they still reflect. If there's light on there, they still reflect a little bit. So I'm painting the values. I'm painting the values. I want the sun to be out. It's not out as I'm painting here, but I remember what it was, and I know that the side of the cars are still in shadow, even if there isn't light or sunlight on them. I still know that this is dark right here. And it is right now still, anyways. Again, I don't have to stick with one color. I can go in there and go, okay, maybe I want to reflect some of that green into there. I'll take a little bit of green, reflect that into the bottom of the street here. Because colors reflect from other areas. These are the large areas. Yeah, I went through that. It's a large area of my middle tone. These are not my darks yet, not my big darks. My big darks are going to be basically the shadows in the tree itself, the pole here. Those are going to be my large darks. So looks like what I'm going to be doing next here is these large darks. Well, the side of my van is also very dark, and so let's see. Put a little bit of that in there. The people, this garbage can is a little bit darker. And now we're going to work from back to front. And those are my big areas, basically. So I'll go in here now, get some of the, this is a little bit bigger area here, a little darker. It is kind of detailed in the fact that it is my center of interest, so I do have to go a little bit more careful. Be a little bit more careful with this area. So the traffic is really picking up here lately. Large darks. I still try to paint things together, like this goes right into maybe the people, and while it's wet, I try to add color into those areas from what I have already used, like some orange in here. I always like to put warmth in the eaves of things, like in parts that are dark. Like up here is going to be nice and dark, but I will put in the eaves there some orange. I always like to put orange. Irving Shapiro is one that told me about that kind of thing. To put in your eaves, put the warmth in those eaves. And you notice I'm not getting that detailed. I'm just trying to get the big parts done. There's still big parts. I'm not trying to get too crazy with the super fine detail. I'm just trying to get the big areas done. The rooftop here will be darker. This side is a little bit darker. this would also be throwing a shadow right against this. And these parts that are darker, parts of the building, that you put in when you get to detail stage. You don't want to do that until you get to detail stage. You're still looking for big areas. Big areas, get those done first. As you get them done, things get smaller and smaller. Once you get to the detail stage, you'll go really nice and detailed.
My creativity is all silly stuff now. So what I do is like, that's really nice.
You have any pieces in here or no?
Not yet, but I teach here.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, neat. Wow. Very nice.
Well, thank you. Yeah, hopefully this piece will be in there later on.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks. This is a gallery that we're, for all those that don't know this area, Lake Zurich, this is where I teach on Wednesdays. They also have a gallery. I haven't given Frank any pieces of mine yet, but hopefully maybe this piece will go in there. I can maybe sell this piece. A lot of people, when they come by, they will ask that usually. And now the sun is out, and it's going to be out for a while. Oh boy. And it's getting very hot here now too. Oh boy. I wish the sun would go away again, actually. Painting in the sun is one of those things that I did have an umbrella right here, which I actually could put up a little bit. But yeah, you don't want to paint in the sun. Like, you don't want it on your canvas, on your paper. You want to definitely avoid that, because you don't want to burn your retinas out, for one. And it's really hard to paint when it's this hot and you're just sitting in the sun. You have to have an umbrella for yourself and for the painting and for this whole area. It's always good to go be under something. I'm behind the tree, so I'm only getting parts of my canvas here, or my palette is in. And I could actually put something in behind it to block that, but it's still okay. We're doing fine here. All right, I guess we're gonna go to our dark details back here now. Let's go and do these signs. Just do that real quickly. There's the coffee cup sign right here. They have really good food in there, by the way. If you're ever in this area and you want to just drop for a bite to eat, it's a nice little diner. And I took my dad there one time after he got out of the hospital, and we took him over there real quickly. So now I'm getting, again, my darks, a little bit more detailed darks. And this is in the eaves right here too. This is in the eave, so I'm going to go with dark first, and then I'll put warmth in there. This will be throwing a shadow too, right? Going over my people. All right, let's start with this tree now. Let's go from back to front, get a little bit darker with my trees, and now the trees. And it is really hard to see the difference between this palette, this side of the palette, and that side. Let me put my umbrella up here, because you really can't do the. I have an umbrella here that I put up. There we go. There we go. I just put up an umbrella, so as you can see, there's an umbrella up there. Now it's nice and dark, but then you've seen this light through there. But hope you can still see what I'm doing. Yeah, the Naples, the Jaune number 2 works really well with lavender to give it a really nice, warm kind of look to it. All right, let's do some of this foliage up here. I'm gonna use my bristle brush this time. I'm gonna use my bristle brush again like I did last week. I really kind of enjoyed that, using that. So I'm going to mix that with a green, leaf green, and a little bit of lavender and chrysanthemum gold, and a little bit of blue, And I'm just going to go back here and actually make it a little bit lighter, because this is still the background. Actually, it's not. Let's do some of these leaves. Gonna put some of these dark leaves in there. I still need to get my funny brush out one of these days. My funny brush, the rubber band brushes, because those are really good for leaves like this. And it's usually really good for the outer edge of leaves, not so much for inside. I like using a regular brush for inside and getting around things. This is going right over this area. Getting a little bit bluer right here. I like to put an orange in my green to make it not so vibrant a green. Maybe this is going to be really dark, but that's okay. Right over here it is actually really dark. And so I want to establish somewhere a really dark green, and so that's good as place as any right here. And I'll use my round brush to start doing the dots. How are we looking at time here? I didn't even look at that time. All right, halfway done. Halfway through. So let's just get this going here with some of the dark leaves. Right into the dark branches. The sign is actually the same value. It's just as dark, but I'm gonna make it a little bit lighter, just because that way I can make it come forward and even negative paint it. I'll just make it a different color. Here we go with a little bit. Again, I use dark blue, I use some purple, I use chrysanthemum gold. And that gives me a really nice natural green. And see how nice and dark it is? I mean, they're very dark against the light sky, so you can push it. You can push it to a really, really, really dark. And that's okay. Back here, I know there are parts that are just that dark, but I'm going to leave it lighter only because I don't want it to come forward. I want it to stay back there, and I could do a slightly less green, but I'm going to keep it simple. I didn't want to get texture back there. Now I'm going to use my smaller round brush to get the branches, or the trunks of the trees, which are very, very dark. And so I'm going to use the purple first. Purple and green again. It makes kind of a brown. The birds are back. And so this is really a dark branch coming down here in front of it. Again, I use purple, chrysanthemum gold. It kind of makes me a brown. And there's a lot of green in that, and there's also a lot of light green in that. So I use a little Naples yellow, put a little yellow into that. And if you draw something up really well with your, when you do your pencil, then you don't have to worry about looking up so much, because, you know, that's what it is. You're just looking for the color. Because I already drew it, so I know that they're there right where I put them. You know, you have to commit yourself to a nice drawing so that you don't have to look up as much as you think you need to look up a lot to see what's going on. But I memorize things, so I really look at it, and when I'm drawing it, I kind of memorize it in my head to know what it is. And that's what I'm bringing out, that hopefully that text book, not a textbook, but I want to bring out a sketchbook where you do that, where you learn how to work from your imagination. And so hopefully it'll come up soon. I have a little bit more time now that I'm not teaching these next 2 months. but I'm gonna see if I can't get some of this together and get it out there one of these days. But it's really important to learn how to memorize things that when you're drawing, because that way you don't have to actually look at it so much because you memorize it. You know what this. I know what this little garbage can looks like because I just drew it once already, and so I know I just have to go in there. I can look at like how the light affects it, but so I know that like this chair around it will be darker or lighter, and so I'm going to go around the bench. I can look for that. The big parts I can look for. The little things, you know, I did the drawing, so I know there's just a bunch of these little lines going down. And I can add color to it. I can add shadow to it. And look, right now I even put a little bit of opaque into it. Now the wires that are on there for the Christmas lights, those you don't have to put on. Now people think that sometimes you have to do exactly what's there. No, you don't. Like I even took that little, there's a box right here. I took that out because that would block this beautiful bench right here. And so I just took that out. Now do a really dark part right here. I know this is really detailed now, but I have it in my brush, so I might as well use it right where I'm doing it. So I'll put the bench in there real quick, and then we can do a little bit of a wash right here just to dull it down a little bit. And then now the sun's out, so I can actually see the values of the shadows and how they're, like there's a little shadow right here, and I can put that in there, even in a shadow within a shadow. It's okay, it works. I've done it many times where, because it's a little darker right there, and this is from the back part of the tree, right? And so you can have shadows in within shadows. It does work. Let that bleed out. Now I'll get this pole in there. And these parts are really dark, so don't be afraid of getting them dark in the first shot. Don't try to build up your darks, especially if you're outside. Just get it done. So I'm going to take a really dark, almost black, and just bring it right down. And I bring it down with the most amount of paint at first, because then I can go back in with water and then give me my soft edges and make it wet on one edge. And what did I mix to that? I mixed dark blue, Prussian blue, permanent violet, and a little bit of red, a little bit of alizarin. It almost makes like a black, and that's fine. And this is metal, so it will reflect, and it's shiny kind of, so it will reflect other colors in it. But I first put down, just put it down with a really thick amount of paint. And then manipulate it with the water and take some out, put some in. Hello, Eddie. Happy belated 4th to you too. So now we're getting to see this nice dark in there, getting some reflections in there. I can go right into my car next to her here. The wheels are nice and dark, and the wheel well here is really dark. Get the light of the hubcap or the wheel itself. Okay, not sure what the people are screaming about. We have a bike group here that just went by. So there's always a little orange in the front here of the car. They always have a little bit of orange light on the side for blinkers. I never even knew that there's always a little bit of orange in the front. Red in the back for tail lights. It's funny how the detail really makes things. And when you get to the detail stage, it's fun because things pop out, things start looking like what they are. And I always find it fun to do the cars because I just like drawing cars. Because they're shiny, they're kind of shiny and they have a lot of great reflections on them.
That looks amazing.
Oh, thanks. So let's get the blue in the sign over here. Lake Zurich sign is actually blue. I don't want to make it too vibrant though again. And I'm not going to put the writing in by negative painting it. I'm just going to use white paint and just put it on top. I don't want to sit there and spend time doing the lettering. I'm just going to put white paint on top and be done with it. And I use purple instead of my blue. I know it's blue, the scene, but I used it more purple. And that's my prerogative. I can do whatever I want. And so here's, actually this is like kind of like I can use the red that I use on the taillights, and there's a flag type of, it's like a flag looking type of thing here. It's not the American flag, it's in a banner. This is for Independence Day. So I will do like a blue purple. I don't want a really bright blue, again, because that would not match anything in my picture right now. So, and here again, what I can do is for the stars, I can just go in there later with the white also. Just put them in with the white paint, or negative paint around, but again, I don't have that much time to get this done, so matter of fact, not too much longer. And so I gotta make sure I get this pretty far ahead here. And so now let's get into our center of interest. Let's go over here first, get the big stuff. Again, you have to get the big stuff done first before you get the small stuff. And so, let's drop my brush. So let's go over here and start getting some of this stuff going into getting that done. So the side of the building, they have this little decorative boards that are on here. It's part of the building. Now, there is a bunch of pipes in there that are no longer used, it looks like, and I just think they look ugly, so why would I put something in there? And I know I put in the meters. I'm gonna leave those out though. I don't really need to have those into the scene. If you don't like something in the scene and it looks kind of weird, it doesn't mean you have to put them in there. I also put a potted plant right here because there wasn't one, but I thought it'd be nice to have a potted plant there, so I decided to put one in. And here's this little beam, a little pole that's holding the roof up a little bit. Yeah, those two beams are holding the roof up. There's another one over here, which I won't put in. On the side of the building here. Now the rooftop is nice and gray, a nice gray, so purple, a bit of warmth in there. I just go into my warm colors. I don't even know what colors they are. I just kind of go in there and figure I need some blue in that too to dull it down a little bit. And so now just make it nice dark here for the rooftop. And that's just the rooftop. I get to make it look a little bit like the shingles. Under the gutter can be a little bit dark. And because this is kind of like a big area, let's, and I know it's kind of weird, the camera angle, so it's going to look different when I go straight on to it. But this over here, I'm still going to darken a little bit, just because I don't want it that noticeable. And so I just want to blur it and not put anything there except brush strokes, and just to kind of make it look like it's in this area and it's underneath. I don't want to put red there. I'm not sure why I put red there. Let's make it a little bit more gray. You know, a lot of times to get gray, I just go to my palette and just pick up a bunch of colors that make it dirty, and then just put them in there, into the water, let them float. So then we're gonna take a little bit of blue. Take a little bit of blue right here.
Oh.
You guys?
Fantastic.
Thanks. So see, I want to just make it a little bit darker here so that I don't, again, I want that U shape of the shadowing. And now I can get all the detail stuff. And then this part I can pick up or put light paint in there later to make it a little bit bright on one side, or use gouache like this. I can use a little bit of gouache and it's going to cover up, right? And so not a big deal. And since I did the down here a little bit, down here I did a little bit darker, so I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm just going to take some of my dirty palette color. I'm just going to put it over that a little bit. And now, center of interest. It's all small stuff, so out comes my small brush, and out comes my big contrast now, and I have to make everything look really detailed, right? I have 10 minutes to do it. So let's see, let's go a little bit detailed, and in the window, it's reflecting these people, and so let's do these people first. Give this person a hat. So I'm going with the people first, and I'll do them really detailed. And as I'm detailing it, there you go.
So did I.
That's quite a
Thank you.
Yeah.
So as you're putting the detail from the back coming forward, what you want to do is you want to keep these a little bit less contrasty, and as you come forward, you're going to go a little bit darker. Like these will be a little bit darker than the ones in the back.
Wow, that's
That's amazing.
And when you do your people, remember they're your center of interest. So don't be afraid of putting color into those areas. And then
wow.
Oh,
That's
thanks.
crazy. That's so good.
Yeah.
Does it bother you when people look over your shoulder? Or?
nope. Right now I've got 20 people watching me too online.
Oh,
So-
okay, okay.
So, nope, it's not a problem at all. It's kind of like a class I do every Sunday, and so they're online watching. And
When did you start that?
this morning,
Really?
yeah, I do it for an hour, so I've got 10 minutes left. So, but thanks for stopping.
You do lovely work.
Thank you. I just noticed, yeah, I always do come prepared with umbrella. I actually have two umbrellas. One that I would put on an easel, that when I'm not filming, I would just put it on the easel and cover all my area. Cover me and hopefully everything and then one I would just put over my palette and my painting. Usually I can get one, I can just put it far enough away and it covers all of me and my painting. So now all the fine stuff. Like the poles back there, and trying to get a nice gray. little bit of blue. So I'm just getting a dark gray and just mix complements together. Everything's wet, so it's sliding. My brush is sliding in my hand. Here we have stuff back here, and you can get detailed with this part now. That's okay. I mean, this is your center of interest, so go crazy. I don't care how detailed you get with it. The more detail, the better. This is your center of interest, and so things like this lamp, I'll put the lamp and maybe the side of the bricks, indicating gesture of the bricks in front of, and then the bricks themselves. And let me use some pink or jaune numbered thing for the flesh tones here, so they don't look too blue. They look like they had blue in them. And so these chairs they're sitting in, they're nice and dark. Actually, everything out there is black, and so just really dark is what you want to do. Just make things really dark. I forgot to do this car back here. Again, I let things all bleed together. You know, like in shadows, bleed the shadows together so they become one area. It's not that you don't want to have things so separate. You want this all to bleed together as one big area. A big area of dark. Here the grill in front of this car could be, you know, maybe the front of the car, the windshield, maybe a little bit darker. Remember last week I talked about the brick or the lines, and I'm gonna wait for that for my rigger brush. Now I want to get these flowers in this potted plant here, and so now remember I said I was going to just do them with dark, and so that's what I'm doing now. I'm just taking lilac and a little bit of my gouache and just making dark colors in. What you don't want to do is when you're doing flowers like this is don't just do dots separately here and there. Clump them together a little bit, and so they don't look so perfect. And actually, there's a lot of flowers in that potted plant. Actually, a lot more than that than I have. And so I'm gonna put a little bit more red into this, a little more pink, and I'm just gonna like do the whole area. Because it's just a gesture of that there's a lot of flowers in this pot. And then I'm going to get a dark green in there. We'll see you later, Eddie. Thanks for watching. Now let's get a green. Let's make a green again. Get a green over here, a really nice dark green, because I can get some really dark greens in here. Same thing in this potted plant. There's a lot of dark with back here, so to separate the two. Maybe not quite as dark as I have it. Maybe not quite as dark. Dark through here. I'm going to get a little bit darker back here because it seems like this is probably my center of interest, so I can have a little bit more details back here. So I'm just going to go a little bit darker with some of these trees, this one tree back here. There's the trunk of that coming down. So I'm not going to make it much darker, just slightly darker to indicate that there is something happening back here. You just give another dimension. And then this rooftop on top of that, on top of here, is really contrasty. It's part of your center of interest, so I'm going to make it contrasty. This is the rooftop. And again, I'm at detail stage now, so the more detail, the better. I may not get it all done to detail in this hour, but I can take it home and I can finish some of the really fine stuff with my photo. If I have a photo of it, I can just go back in and kind of manipulate things. And that's not a bad deal to do sometimes when you're done with something that you did plein air. Don't be afraid of going back in, and when you're at home, you can do a little bit of it, especially stuff that you may have missed or you didn't quite remember, or you have to look in your photo to see what was there. Or I have no problem with that because I did most of this outside. I mean, most of it's done outside. But if you need to clean up some parts and stuff inside, go right ahead. I'm just going to be a little bit tighter with some of the things in the center of interest. Here it says art. And then it says center underneath that with a palette. And then Mainstreet in red. And we'll just do it really finely. Mainstreet art. 1992, little palette. All right, rigor time. Into this stuff. How much time do I have left? Oh, 3 minutes. So 3 minutes, can we do it? Yes, we can. Just gonna do a couple little things here with our rigor. There's a couple cars over here. Again, generalize it a little bit. And there's tail lights on this car back here. A little red. There's some blue stripes on this canopy and the umbrella back here. Oh, the lines in the street. Remember how important these are. I keep on forgetting to tell you guys, these are very important. And that's too thick. Way too thick. I may have to do them later on. And definitely the bricks on the actual building, they're really kind of nice, and they're really all over the place kind of bricks. They're not perfect bricks that go, they're just all little lines here and there. It's a little bit too dark, so I'm just going to take my towel and dampen it a little bit. I'm gesturing these bricks on here, and it's nice because it's not like a brick wall that's all the same. It's all patterned exactly. These are just, some are big, some are small. It's like limestone almost type of thing. Dark through here. Somebody's going in with their portfolio or a big portfolio bag there, or they're coming out. They just bought a nice painting. All right, 30 seconds, huh? All right, 30 seconds. Couple more lines up here for darks, and we'll call it quits right there. Let's give them something red. There we go. A little bit too red. All right, guys. I'm gonna do the line. One last thing. I know I'm going over a little bit by a minute. So we're just going to put the lines in there. They're very important. The lines, I can't tell you how important they are to show the perspective of the scene. And you can use a ruler if you had brought a ruler, which I didn't. If you have a ruler in your thing and you want to use a ruler, that's fine. You can use that. Couple more. All right, guys, there you have it. There is the. Let me show you straight up, so it's not an angle anymore. So there it is, straight on, sun shining, and I'm gonna put the stars in there and Lake Zurich in there too with white. I can do that in my studio just to get the little fine things done later. All right, so have a great day, everybody. Go out and paint if you get a chance, or even sketch, or just take photos. Have fun, and we'll talk to you on Thursday when we do a paint along. Bye bye.